Hi, I'm Donna Kallner. This video is part of Lesson 2 in the New Age Looping Basics e-course. In this video, we're going to be working with increases and decreases and starting to talk about shaping. This is fun stuff. Let's get started.
In Lesson 1, our focus was on basic technique and thread control. In that lesson, you used a straight-sided mold and worked one stitch into each lag of the previous row, and that created a straight-sided sleeve of fabric that became a pouch when you closed up the base. But suppose you were using a mold where the volume changes, like this bottle cap opener, where the diameter widens and narrows at different points in the piece. A mold like this that is trapped by the stitching is called a lost form. Let's take a closer look at this piece. In this sample, a base cord was wrapped around the neck of the bottle opener. The base row established the stitch count for the piece, and I just repeated the same number of stitches that I used on the base row in every other row of the piece. Where the bottle opener is wider, the lags between stitches are larger and stitches are farther apart. Where the bottle opener is narrower, the lags are shorter and stitches are closer together. At the base of the bottle opener, stitches are so close it's hard to find the lags to stitch into them. There's nothing wrong with stitch sizes that vary this way if that's the look you want. But if you're trying to create the illusion of a consistent stitch size throughout the piece, you're going to want to learn how to use increases and decreases. Increases are added stitches, decreases are stitches that you skip. Let's go back to the straight-sided mold we were using last time and recall how we were making one stitch into each lag on the previous row, and that produced a straight-sided or cylindrical pouch. Now what if I replace that mold with something of a different shape? For example, this is a soap on the rope. It's wider, it has more volume in some areas and less volume in others. If I want to achieve the illusion of a consistent stitch size throughout that whole thing, I'll use increases and decreases in the number of stitches that I make. Where the wrapped base cord is, that's a little narrower than the widest part of the soap, and so I would need to add stitches through increase. When you want to increase, before you advance to stitch into the next lag on the previous row, work an extra stitch into the same lag you just stitched into. That's an increase, and yes, in that particular spot right now, those stitches are going to look a little bit crowded in comparison to the rest of your stitches. Don't worry, that's going to even out as you continue stitching. Those added stitches or increases will give you more lags to stitch into when you come around on the next row, and that's how you can produce an increase in volume with the illusion of a consistent stitch size. So let's make another increase here in this stitch. My thumb is covering up the increase I made a minute ago. Okay, and now I'll continue stitching around, and when I return to this point, here are my increases. There's an increase there, and there's an increase there. And I just stitch into all of those lags. And at arm's length, you have a hard time even telling where those increases were. For some projects, you may want to increase according to a pattern. For example, increase only on the sides of a pouch or at the center back. But in most cases, when you're just trying to create the illusion of an overall consistent stitch length, just trust your instincts and add stitches where your eyes tell you that the lags between stitches are getting longer. I should note here that you're not going to really see the increase in volume from your increase stitches as long as you have your sample on a straight-sided mold like this. It's still going to pretty much conform to the mold. You can test the live edge and see that you're getting a little bit of extra volume, but where you really start to see the change is when you come off the mold. And we'll be doing that soon. But first, let's take advantage of the clear visual feel that this mold gives us to talk about the opposite of increases, and that would be decreases. Decreases reduce the number of stitches by skipping lags on the previous row. To make a decrease, bypass a lag and advance to the next lag to place the next stitch. On the next row, as you stitch past the place where you decreased, you may not even be able to tell where that was. As long as you've been mindful about the allocation of thread for your lags. We talked about thread control and allocation in lesson 1. In decreases, the allocation of thread is really important because if you don't allocate less thread, you're not going to have a decrease in volume. You'll just have fewer stitches. The concept is pretty simple. To increase, add stitches. To decrease, skip stitches. But at this point, the straight-sided mold is not helping us. We need to get into something where there's some changes in volume. Why don't you grab a round cake of soap, a hockey puck, or some other similar shaped object, and we'll use that for sampling in the next video. I'll see you there.